Just a moment. Fallen Chinese gymnast Sang Lan is recovering tonight with her parents at her bedside at Nassau County Medical Center after 7 hours of spinal fusion surgery which took place yesterday. Thousands of cards and flowers have poured in from around the United States for the 17-year-old gymnast. Today at a press conference, her medical team talked about her surgery and updated her status at this moment.
The last two bones within the neck have been damaged to the point where the one on top has slid forward 75% the size of the vertebral body of the one below it. That is a devastating injury. She also has had fractures and torn ligaments posteriorly over 2 levels. The surgery itself required to span those 2 levels and saved the remaining 4 or 5 levels within the neck. So as far as the mobility of the neck is concerned regarding the fusion, she has lost relatively very little motion.
She is sitting up in a chair. She is in wonderful spirits this morning. She feels relieved. She feels unrestricted, although she's still quite ill. Please understand that. She ate, she drank, and she has just a world of strength, emotionally and physically.
In the spinal cord trauma business, we're talking about snowflakes. No 2 injuries are exactly the same, because there are literally hundreds of millions of nerve connections per every level of the spinal cord. And so for me to tell you that I would be able to tell you that with a certain amount of comfort or a certain amount of accuracy that I can pinpoint exactly what her prognosis is going to be on a day-to-day basis is impossible. I'd have a higher chance of winning Powerball.
To show you the nature of this young lady's spirit, because I said to her through the translator, I don't know if you remember, you probably don't with all that was happening, but I visited with you last Wednesday shortly after the accident. And she looked at me with a smile on her face and she said, to me, all Americans look alike.
For those of you whom the reference may have escaped, Powerball is a New York lottery game in which the odds of winning are about 1 gazillion to 1. For the better part of 2 days, Sang's saddened friends at the Beijing National Training Center handcrafted 1,000 paper birds like this one for Sang's parents to bring with them to America. It was the best way the girls knew to tell their friend halfway around the world that their thoughts and prayers were with her.
Tonight, in mixed pairs gymnastics, Alexei Nemov and Svetlana Horkina are the golden Russian pair to beat. But in the preliminaries, they were upstaged by Ukrainians Olga Teslenko and Roman Zolzulia. Watch out, world, for this teenage pair. And the best of the rest, who double up, side down, in gymnastics Battle of the Nations. Inside Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum, it is the final day of an 8-day week of gymnastics competition. And coming up, it's the mixed pairs final, a 2-day event. Today is the final day. Men and women have selected 2 apparatus on which to compete, excluding the vault. The top 8 teams advanced from yesterday to today's finals, but their scores did not carry over. The team score to determine the championship team is a combined total of today's 2 rounds. Alexei Nemov of Russia on the second finishing team in the qualifying round. His partner, Svetlana Horkina. Working with me, Kathy Johnson-Clark and Bart Connor. Nemov, the dominant figure in the '94 Goodwill Games in gymnastics, has been impressive on the floor so far here. Won the championship in the individual event competition on the floor.
Scored a 9.725 in the final to win the gold medal there. He scored a 9.625 yesterday. We talk about fatigue. These athletes have been competing for 8 days in a row. We'll see what Nemeth goes for in his opening tumbling run. This may be an indication as to how fit he is. Oh, no. There is a perfect example of perhaps his exhaustion. He went for the double twisting double, and he was way short. Out of bounds. You go off the blue carpeted area, you lose you 1/10 of a point.
I couldn't help but look over at Svetlana Horkina to see if there was any reaction when her partner missed. She's just going about her business, getting ready for the uneven bars. But with as many of the athletes probably fatigued, they ought to hang in there, because you never know. Everyone might make these little mistakes.
Pike double back. Beautiful form. Unfortunately, he's going to have a major deduction with that opening tumbling run. And he knows that wasn't his best effort.
Well, his best efforts include a first at the 97 Worlds for Alexei Nemeth.
This really is one of the more common passes that we're seeing, but he does it with such style and finesse. Unfortunately, bounced right out of the floor area, though.
It's a big boy. He covers a lot of floor area. Some of the little guys have an advantage in a way.
5'8", 140, and here is a tall woman who many thought didn't have the body for this kind of gymnastics, certainly at the level that she has competed, and she is the top performer in the world on the uneven bars, Svetlana Horkina.
She has a list as long as her body of credentials here. 2 Goodwill games, 2 European titles, 3 world, and an Olympic title on this event.
And 2 moves named after her.
This is a gorgeous combination. Here comes that move, Greg, right here. She's got a 9.85 in the preliminary round. And everybody thought the judges gave her the benefit of the doubt because she actually hit the floor. This was way better. What are they going to do, go 10-2?
Her lowest score has been a 9.8. We've seen her hit 4 bars routines in a row this week, and all of them equally fantastic.
This is just beautiful work. You know, when you see her face as she's walking off, I never really want to read somebody's mind, but I do want to read hers sometimes. She has such interesting expression.
Greg, you mentioned having skills named after her. In all, on all the apparatus, she has 6 elements named after her, more than any other gymnast in history. That's a tribute to her originality.
19.225 for Nemeth and Horkina. And it is not good enough to move them into the top spot in this first round. And these next 2 competitors, Roman Zozulia and Olga Teslenka, really the surprise of the preliminaries. Teenage couple from Ukraine who finished first in the opening round yesterday. Again, though, the scores do not carry over.
They are so modest compared to Nemeth and Horkina, who are certainly really out there and animated, but they're equally impressive. Zozulia had a 9.7 in one of the preliminary rounds on this event, so he has the potential for a great score here. Notice the rings are swinging. Every swing of the rings, he can have as much of it as a 1/10 of a point deducted, or the loss of control there. But his body line and technique is just absolutely perfect.
Roman Zozulia, the 97 Ukraine rings champion, and getting first prize from Kathy Johnson-Clark for best name in the competition.
That's a cool name, you have to admit.
Just 19 years old. I think we're going to see a lot from this young man as we look ahead to the 2000 Olympics. Remember that terrific name, because he will be there and he'll be an important contender.
His partner, Olga Teslenka, will be up on the uneven bars. 5th place at the 98 Europeans in this discipline.
She swings really well on this event. Once in a while, she loses a little bit of form with her feet and legs. But when she's tight, it's beautiful.
She also has the distinction of having a move named after her.
Notice the position she hits, right? Oh, very nice landing on a double front. A difficult dismount to land that well.
Olga Teslenka.
These are the inverted giants into her double front, and beautiful landing.
So once again, very quiet and demure as they sit on the bench. Their scores a total of 19.4. And right now, that puts them atop the leaderboard. When we come back, we'll have Alexei Bondarenko, the highest scoring gymnast in these Goodwill games. Russia's Alexei Bondarenko, who has had the most successful Goodwill games of any single competitor. And he will start on the rings. He and his young teammate, the perhaps next female star of all gymnastics, not just Russian gymnastics, Anna Kovalyova, surprisingly only finishing in 6th in the qualifying, but probably knowing that they only had to get in the top 8 to go to today, and the scores didn't carry over, saving the good stuff for us right now.
You could definitely tell they were all kind of pacing themselves, knowing they had another full round. They just wanted to qualify.
Watch this sequence he's going to do towards the end of the routine. He does 2 double back somersaults within the rings. And when you notice it, look to see if it would be wise for them to take their shoulder joints out and put a ball bearing joint in there. Watch what he's going to do. Double right there, crank, double crank. Whew. Little swing in that handstand.
He handled it, though.
Gorgeous dismount.
Took the silver in the event finals here in the Goodwill games on the rings.
He's just 19 years old. He didn't compete on the Russian team that came to the Olympics in 1996.
And here's the Papa Bear of Russian gymnastics, Leonid Arkayev, who has designated Bondarenko's teammate as the next superstar and is working with her personally. That stern expression. And here is his young charge, about 1/3 of his size, but all the talent in the world, Anna Kovalyova.
It's funny, Greg. Sometimes he can be the big bad bear, and then other times like a teddy bear. This is potentially a future great. She has it all.
"15 years old, an 81-pound dynamo who is the Russian champion on the floor and the Russian champion on the beam."
Perfectionists can see there are a few little areas where she can work on some polish, work on her toe point, really get it perfect. But there's certainly time and room for that improvement, and I'm sure they're working on it. Delightful exercise. She's so charming on the floor.
Anna Kovalyova.
Head coach Arkayev says that if you want to be the leader, you have to be different. And I believe that she has the quality. She has unique skills, a nice presentation, a nice look in gymnastics, but she does some things a little bit differently than the other gymnasts, and nice combinations.
Here's her final tumbling run. Pike double back. There's an elegance to her, too. She's very classy.
Does she look like anybody you know?
If that isn't Kathy Johnson a few years back.
A few?
I don't know who that is.
A couple decades, maybe. It's a little freaky even for me. I had to pull out all my old pictures and look at it and go, wow, that is weird.
Bondarenka and Kovalyova, the score to beat so far in this round is 19.4, and they don't do it. 19.175. The standings from the first round, the Ukrainians, as they did in the preliminary, Roman Zuzulya and Olga Teslenko, they are number one, the team to beat. The Chinese finally coming through with Huang Shu and Ling Ji posing a threat. And the Russians, well, they're in 4th, 5th, and 7th at this point, and they have got to be strong in the second round to get into the medals. Olga Teslenko, she and her teammate Roman Zuzulya are the pair to beat. Lots more coming up. After round one, the leaders from Ukraine, Roman Zuzulya and Olga Teslenko, Chinese in second, and then a Cuba-Australia duo in third. Hello again, everyone. Greg Lewis along with Kathy Johnson-Clark and Bart Connor, and a little bit of a surprise here to see Roman Zuzulya and Olga Teslenko one on top of this here.
Somewhat. They're great gymnasts with beautiful form, especially on their best events. And this can be a really funny, fickle event. One tiny little mistake. I mean, one half of the team can be awesome, and the other would take a little step, and it just drops them below. So it makes it kind of fun, but nonetheless, we will see some spectacular gymnasts. I'll even make a prediction. I think the Chinese, if they can finally hit this final routine, can pull up.
Well, the Russians are certainly having trouble here in 4th, 5th, and 7th, Bart, after the first round.
Well, we've come to expect so much from Alexei Nemov and from Svetlana Horkina, but it's very interesting to see what's happening here, and certainly the mood in the building. There's a lot of people here who are cheering for the Chinese team. They're in second place. Huang Shu and Ling Jia, they have the gymnastics to win this whole thing, and I think that would be a very poetic ending to what we've seen here at the Goodwill Games.
Well, there are no American teams in this final of mixed pairs competition, but the Goodwill Games have been good to the USA in gymnastics. A total of 9 medals, 5 gold, 2 silver, and 2 bronze. In 5th place after the first round of finals, Alexei Bondarenka and teammate Anna Kovalyova, trailing by .275 behind the Ukrainians.
Bondarenka has a routine here that has a 10-0 start value, which is very difficult to get on parallel bars these days, because in order to get a 10-0, you have to have some clever combinations, and he does all of them right in this opening sequence here. There's that hop pirouette. Watch this sequence. And out to the side. We've seen him do this routine 4 times this week. There was a slight form break there, but he is so solid and so clean. That's why he's one of the favorites to win gold in Sydney 2 years from now. He's just 19, and yet he can do maximum difficulty at such a young age.
Alexei Bondarenka.
Right out to the single rail. Just great form. Perfect body line. When he hops into the middle, right here's a little form break.
Bondarenka, the '98 European all-around champion and parallel bars champion, turns it over to his teammate, Anna Kovalyova, who is the '98 Russian champion on beam.
And amazingly, she won that as a junior, defeating Svetlana Horkina by almost a point, which is unbelievable. So she's proven she's competitive at this level, and yet I still even see room for her to improve and grow. Much more aggressive here today already. Gorgeous handspring front.
It's interesting, she arrived here late. She didn't do the all-around competition. Maybe she is a little fresher than some of the other athletes competing here today.
Only 15 years of age. There's an amazing level of confidence in her work.
She says she admires Horkina because she loves how Horkina competes.
Well, the day is coming when all young gymnasts will be admiring Kovalyova.
Very nice. Little reminiscent of Svetlana Boginskaya, that one foot in front of the other.
Bondarenka and Kovalyova in yesterday's second round only scoring 18.95, and there is the embrace from Akayev, which says, okay, I can smile. I guess I did okay.
Greg, there's nothing like hitting a beam routine. It just feels so good. Adds to her confidence as she develops and heads toward the Olympic Games in a couple of years.
She speaks English, so if she has success, I think she'll be a favorite among the English-speaking media as well, because she can do interviews.
They jumped to the top of the standings in the second round with a 38.7 total. But Wang Shu and his teammate Ling Jie will challenge. They were second after the first round.
As a team, the Chinese men have owned parallel bars for about 10 years. It's like when you go to the World Championships and they predict who's going to win. You can just put China in first and second place on the parallel bars and just insert name here later, because one of their gymnasts will nail a routine like this with that kind of difficulty and just with the most precise technique that you can imagine. Look at that. How is it that they do such hard routines with such ease? Look at the height on that dismount.
Well, the Chinese have found the zone in this final day of gymnastics competition. Wang Shu, who won the parallel bars in the Goodwill Games individual event competition.
Like a diver, a very tight pike, he finished the double somersault higher than anybody else in the competition.
A good image, since the divers of the Chinese team have been doing so extremely well here as well in the Goodwill Games. Now Ling Jie on the balance beam. And as we've said so many times, Kathy, her coach says she's going to win this one in Sydney as well.
Hold on tight for this mount. I've never seen amplitude like this. It is magnificent. The whole routine is incredible. But watch the height above the beam. That is just gorgeous. Bart, we should be able to say the exact same thing about the Chinese women on balance beam and on even bars. They should have won every major competition on those two events, and they haven't, because they haven't shown the consistency yet. But when they get that consistency, they will be as dominant. Watch the amplitude here on this middle element. Very, very difficult. Slight pause. She usually goes right into the aerial walkover. And not only does she do the high-level tricks with incredible technique and amplitude, but there's a presence there. There's elegance and dance and beauty.
For those who don't know the word amplitude, Kathy, quickly.
Height, virtuosity, the height off the beam when they go into an element.
If you're an extreme athlete, you'd call it big air.
This is superb. Beautiful exercise. Finally, she has hit two excellent routines here in the competition.
All right.
Good for them.
Wang Shu and Ling Jie are posing a big challenge to everyone to come. Second after the first round.
I would be hard-pressed to find any errors in here. She could be a little bit higher. You can always say that. Maybe not quite piked down, but that's the only thing. The rest of her routine was excellent.
And they are going to the top of the leaderboard. Wang Shu and Ling Jie are now the team to beat. When we come back, it'll be Horkina and Nemov taking their shot at the top.
tomorrow night on the...
Halfway through the second round of finals in mixed pairs competition, Wang Shu and Ling Jia have set the pace. 38.900 is the score to beat, and it will not be in anyone's easy bag to beat that. It's going to take the best performance that everyone can put forth. Next up, the team that was in third after the first round, Eric Lopez Rios and his teammate Zena McLaughlin. And these two really had no interaction before, didn't know each other. He's from Cuba, she's from Australia. They have found a little chemistry, supported each other nicely. Lopez Rios to the rings.
He's been on the national team in Cuba for 11 years. 25 years old. This is one of his favorite events, and you're going to see why, because he's enormously strong, and as we saw on other events, his technique is terrific.
Nice form. We put so much emphasis in gymnastics, sometimes too much, on the tricks and the level of difficulty.
Impressive opening strength sequence. You'll see a lot of these Maltese crosses. That's what that's called. Should have held that one a little bit longer. Good position in the inverted cross. That's what they call a planche, and you can see his body is buckling just a little. He may be slightly worn out too. 8th in the all-around at the World Championships, so he's a very balanced gymnast, not just a terrific ringman. Double-double.
Dismount.
Eric Lopez Rios is solid, though. No big breaks. His teammate now, Zena McLaughlin, knowing she will be the last to go for this duo, with a chance to get a top 3 spot. Prize money for mixed pairs, $4,000 for first, $2,000 second, $1,000 third. But more important for her is a chance to be up on the podium before the judges and the world.
It's a very well-balanced routine. She's actually a very well-balanced gymnast. No weak events. It's a terrific opening pass.
Placed just outside the medals in the balance beam individual event final in 4th.
Australia is very fortunate to have her. They're trying to qualify for the Olympic Games in their own country.
And the Goodwill Games will be coming her way in 2001 in Brisbane.
Ooh.
That'll be a slight deduction. That's one of the hardest elements, I think, to judge for the judges, because you have to grab the balance beam. It's part of the trick. But if you grab it too hard, or if you're slightly off and you have to correct yourself, the judges must take a deduction, and anywhere from 1/10 of a point to 5/10 if they feel that she would have fallen without grabbing the balance beam. Then it's considered a fall.
Even when you make it, it looks almost like a mistake.
Just pulled that pike double around.
You helped her, though. I saw you pulling around there, Kathy.
Is that why I'm exhausted? I'm doing all the routines with them. They're just like cats, really. I mean, she knows right where the floor is. She takes her feet and puts them over her head and just waits for the floor.
We'll have their score when we return, and the performance of Alexei Nemov and his partner, Svetlana Horkina. Alexei Nemov getting ready for his final competitive performance of these Goodwill games, and knowing he has to shoot high. The Australia-Cuba duo, a 38.35 in 3rd place. At this point, there is his teammate Svetlana Horkina. And both of them have picked different apparatus for their second round tonight than they did yesterday. He has switched from pommel horse to high bar. She has switched from balance beam to floor exercise.
Be interesting to see what he does here. He has hit 3 high bar routines in a row here at the Goodwill Games. He is known to fall off about half the time, so he's going against the odds. If he can make his 4th routine of these games in a row, it will be something. There is a very difficult release move. In case you missed it, he's going to do one more. Same thing.
He took the silver on this discipline in the '96 Olympics and at these Goodwill Games.
Showing us all the positions in gymnastics: tuck, pike, layout.
Yeah, he's done it all here, and it is amazing that he's shown consistency here, because he has been known to have some spectacular falls off the high bar. This is great.
Shoots for the ceiling, lands perfectly on the floor. Alexei Nemov. And it's his final chance in competitive gymnastics to really ignite the crowd.
Somebody should remind him the exhibition is later. This is still competition.
Just wait till the exhibition.
You think the screaming girls are going wild now? Wait till later on. What technique? You know, he shows some form breaks when he does what they call the tap swing for that dismount, but it sure catapults him up into the air. Yeah, I'm good, huh?
Horkina next. This pair needs more than 19.775, which is 9.8875 each, to move into first place at this point.
He has put some pressure on his teammate. This is not an easy event for her. It's almost like, as I was saying earlier, the stars and the moons have to be lined up just perfectly. Her legs are not real strong, and if she doesn't land in a perfect position, they sometimes crumple underneath her.
A 97 world all-around champion.
And a silver medalist on this event, so she's more than capable. It's about the best I've seen her do that pass. Well, after a minute and a half of flirting with the audience and landing all of her tumbling passes, it's in the hands of the judges now.
She's still flirting with the audience. Svetlana Horkina.
No one does that better, Greg. She really connects with her audience. And this is about the best tumbling I've seen from her in terms of landing.
Alexei was happy with it. Now she puts on a different persona. Once connected romantically. Now, seemingly just partners in this mixed pairs competition. Chinese are at the top of the leaderboard for the moment with a 39.000 total.
No longer a couple. You have to be careful marrying those famous gymnasts, you know.
What would you know about that, Bart Connor? What's your wife's name? Nadia Comaneci?
Yes, that would be right. I like to tell people in our household we have 11 Olympic medals. Of course, 9 of them are hers.
The score total 38.725, and they jump up into second place but can't touch the Chinese team of Huang Shu and Li Jia. And here is the youngsters, the teenagers, Roman Zozulya and his teammate Olga Teslenka, who won the preliminaries and were atop the leaderboard at the end of the first round. He goes to the pommel horse. She will be on the balance beam.
Another good opportunity to see his technique and his pencil straight body line.
High RPMs.
Yes, some gymnasts swing faster than others. Oh, he brushed the horse, but he didn't break form. He'll have a slight deduction for clipping the horse, but he kept moving nicely.
Well, he is not giving up just because the Chinese and the Russians have had great second rounds. He's going for it. Roman Zozulya.
This move, as he travels backward across the horse, is called a civado. And you can see he clipped the horse with his hips right there. And earlier as well, just a slight brush on the pommel. And each of those will be about a 0.5 of a point deduction.
And our leaders, Huang Shu and Ling Jia, only can wait now for this last pair to complete their performances. And Zozulya and Teslenka need more than 19.6, more than 9.8 each on their respective apparatus to take the lead.
Big scores, particularly on this event. You have to, oh, that's probably, anyway, it depends on how nice the judges want to be. 1/10 to 2/10 of a point. I'd say 2/10. At least 1.5 tenths.
Are you suggesting the judges are not nice?
I would never suggest such a thing. It's also from their point of view. They're all sitting in different places in the arena. We have the luxury of a monitor right up close, so it's a little easier sometimes for us to see something.
Second in the European Championships of '98 on the beam. Second here in the Goodwill Games on the beam.
It's been very consistent.
A lot of people wondering what happened to her more famous teammate, Lilia Podkopaeva. She had surgery on her ankle and intends to train and compete for the 2000 Olympics. So with her on that team, they could be pretty spectacular here in a couple years.
They're a great team. Did a wonderful job at the World Championships because of routines like this. Clean, and they really work on perfecting every little skill, every dance move.
Also very exciting because there's a new youngster from the Ukrainian team named Olga Rashupkina, who's just a junior, but a spectacular technician like Teslenka.
Like a couple of awkward teenagers on their first date on the backyard swing there, the back porch swing. Should I put my arm around her? Should I say you're great?
It's a terrific routine, but I have to say, there's no way that it was as spectacular as Ling Jia. Ling Jia really had more dynamic moves.
I don't see them getting the score. Here it comes.
And they drop to fourth place. Zozulya and Teslenka just out of the medals. So here's the winning duo. It is Huang Shu and Ling Jia. He picks up his second gold of these games. Was first in the parallel bars. And for Ling Jia, yes, that says it all. The final scores in mixed pairs competition. The Chinese rise to take gold. Huang Shu and Ling Jia, their best day of competition. And that final score of 39 reflects a 0.1 adjustment by the judges. The Russians in second and third. So now let's go down to our Amanda Borden for her thoughts on these Goodwill Games gymnastics competitions.
You know, I was really impressed with the entire competition, but I have to say that I was extremely proud of the American team. We had our veterans take home 2 all-around medals, and our rookie Vanessa Atler came to perform on 2 events and took home gold on both. Personally, I think by the way they did here at the Goodwill Games that the U.S. has great chances in Sydney.
Well, Amanda Borden, no doubt a few would like to see you come back to the team. The Chinese prevail, and the gymnastics competition comes to a close. The athletes here finishing with beauty and power. No doubt their salute to China's Song Lan.